Hello again, and we're talking today about variable scopes. A variable scope refers to the area in which the variable is defined, to which the variable is known and can be referenced. The area in which the variable is known might be within a certain timeline or inside a function, or it might be globally known throughout the entire application. And we can actually find more information on that by going to scope and targeting. So understanding variable scope is important when you develop Flash applications with ActionScript. Scope indicates not only when and where you can refer to variables, but also for how long a particular variable exists in an application. When you define variables in the body of a function, they cease to exist as soon as the specified function ends. If you try to refer to objects in the wrong scope or to variables that have been expired, you get errors in your Flash documents, which lead to unexpected behavior or broken functionality. There are three types of variable scopes in ActionScript: global variables and timeline variables and local variables. And we need to find out more information about all these three, so we'll delve into this information right now. So what is a global variable? Global variables and functions are visible to every timeline and scope in your document. To declare or create a variable with global scope, use the underscore global identifier before the variable name, and do not use the var equals syntax. For example, the following code creates a global variable my name. However, if you initialize a local variable with the same name as a global variable, you don't have access to the global variable while you are in the scope of the local variable, as shown in the following example, which is a line of code that we will address later on. This example simply shows that the global variable is not accessed in the scope of the count function. However, you could access the global scope to variable if you prefix it with underscore global dot. For example, you could access it if you prefix a counter with underscore global, as shown in the following code, trace underscore global dot counter. You cannot assign strict data types to the variable that you create in the global scope because you have to use the var keyword when you assign a data type. For example, you couldn't do global.foo colon string. You could not do that. So the Flash Player version 7 and later Security Sandbox forces restrictions when accessing global variables from Swift files loaded from separate security domain. For more information, see Chapter 17, Understanding Security, on page 677. So then we have a timeline. Variables are available to any script on that particular timeline. To declare timeline variables, use the var statement and initialize them in any frame in the timeline. Create a new Flash document and name it timeline var.fla. Add the following action scripts to frame 1 of the timeline: var my num equals 15, initialized in frame 1, so it's available to all frames. Select frame 20 of the timeline, select insert timeline blank keyframe. With the new keyframe selected, type the following action script into the action panel, trace my num, select control test move, test new document. So the value 15 appears in the output panel after approximately a second because Flash documents loop for default. The value 15 continually traces in the output panel every time the playhead reaches frame 20 in the timeline. To stop the looping action, add stop and after the trace statement. You must declare a timeline variable before trying to access it in a script. For example, if you put the code var, you will get this particular type of problem. So we'll be able to go into Flash at this moment, create a new document and name it timeline. So create a new document. Okay, and then we are selecting frame 1, and then we're going to put this in, this code into the frame. So we have frame 1 selected, and we throw this code in. Select frame 20 of the timeline, so insert timeline blank keyframe. So we select 20, insert timeline a blank keyframe, and then hopefully with the new keyframe selected, type the following action script into the action panel. So we're going to try that, and hopefully we should get something. And then we'll go back, select Control Test Movie, see what we've got. Oh, we've got the number 15. Apparently, the number 15 is was outputted. So the number 15 becomes outputted into the output window, but it continues to run for some time. Now we can test the movie once more to see. Right, and we get the number 15, the number 15, number 15, the number 15, number 15. It looks like the number 15 is displayed in the output window every second. Now we need to find out why it's displayable every second. Let's find out. We'll be able to find out now. The value 15, so basically we're reading from here, the value 15 appears in the output panel after approximately a second. Because Flash documents loop by default the value 15 continually, so documents loop by default. The value 15 continually traces in the output panel every time the playhead reaches frame 20 in the timeline. To stop the looping action, add stop after the trace statement. So after the trace statement, we have to add stop. So we add this. We could go back into there. Let's see it again. Test the movie. So the number 15 appeared, and now because we've actually added a stop action, we've got control. So we've included, to stop the looping action, we've added a stop after the trace statement. So we've added a stop statement. You must declare a timeline variable before trying to access it in a script. For example, if you put the code var my_num :number equals 15 in frame 20, any scripts attached to a frame before frame 20 cannot access my_num and are undefined instead of containing the value 15.